Pika don't. Pika run. I guess I'm gonna have to go for it because they're gonna get it if I don't do anything. Got it. It almost happened. Welcome. This guide is going to assume you have an understanding of Pokemon Unite, the current meta in both Western and Eastern competitive play, and a grasp on held items, including their hidden stats. It's very important to know that a lot of items in this game have a secondary stat, or their effect, which isn't shown in game, but it's important to know how it scales. For example, Razor Claw, 10/15/20, plus 40/45 plus 50% of attack. It's very important to know how things scale in this game to weight their value in terms of against other held items. Now, we're going to be talking about Lucario today, specifically probably one of the most broken characters in the game. The most versatile, plenty of movement, basically the best duelist apart from niche situations. Lucario has an answer for everything. We're going to start off with his passive Steadfast, below 50% health. He gains a shield, increased movement speed for 5 seconds. Scales mainly on attack, plus scaling on his level. Mainly, the most your value you're going to get out of it is probably up to about a 1200 shield at max level, but as assuming that you're at max level. His basic attack, knock up, and it can crit, which is very important for things I'm going to talk about later. Has a little bit more range and throws enemies into the air. Quick attack is usually the move that's selected first because it does do a bit more damage, and it's also better for clearing the double APOMs on the top. But in some metas, you might not clear those right away to get a bigger XP boost when it gets to 905. The two things, Extreme Speed and Power Punch, they're both great. We're going to be talking about each one later. Meteor Mash, great secure when you combine it with Quick Attack. Basically, does 400% of your attack when combined with Quick Attack. Very hard to contest Lucario in the early game. Bone Rush and Close Combat, both have their builds. And his ult has some very little things at the end it's very important to talk about. What I want to talk about first is his stats. It's always good to know where your Pokemon lies in terms of stats. Lucario has great HP, great defense, and pretty average special defense, but this turns into a very bulky all-rounder. Now, his base levels that you want to really focus on hitting is 5. That's your first main ability you get. 7 is your second main ability you get. 5 also gives you your starting crit and lifesteal. And when you get your ult at 9, you get a 20% crit and 10% lifesteal. The last little hump you get is 13 regarding 15% lifesteal. It's very important because lifesteal is great for healing off of minions, healing more with close combat, healing more with your abilities. So lifesteal is a very valued stat in a MOBA. It's very important to know what times you can actually start getting lifesteal and your crit. Now, I want to start by talking about the most common set right now, which is probably Power Up Punch Close Combat. You don't even have to fully charge Power Up Punch for it to be a great move. Gives you unstoppable, has execution damage. But if you do charge it, my goodness, 381% attack, plus 161, that's nothing to be laughing at. That is ridiculous damage, not even including the execute. You can pop it quickly if someone's low for an uncharged attack to still get the full execute damage, which does not actually care about it being charged, or you can charge it fully to do a bunch of barely bursts from a bush. Hitting 11, he gets unstoppable, which is very important because if you're in a situation where you want to hold Power Punch to walk away from combat, you can hold it and get 30% damage resist. This is very important in certain situations where you might want to just soak the damage and walk away. Maybe taking an ult that you know you're not going to win the fight, you can hold power punch and walk away, maybe under goal zone, so that way you can heal, take less damage, kind of absorb and get rid of an enemy ult. It's niche, but it is important to note the damage resist you get while charging. Close combat has some of the most ridiculous scaling in the game, getting upwards of almost 600% attack before it gets upgraded, or over 600 attack when it's upgraded. It's ridiculous. Hits 11 times, and he gets health on restore, which will heal him about like 165% of attack, plus about 440. It used to heal off everything in one update not too long ago. Luckily they changed it so you can only heal off of one thing, but I think that's for the best. Now the other build I want to talk about is Extreme Speed and Bone Rush. Now one thing to note is that you can go Power Punch Bone Rush and you can go Extreme Speed Close Combat. He's so versatile that you can basically make anything work. It's based on the matchup, what kind of comp you're going against, what your comp is running, and what you need in your comp. The most CC you can output is Power Punch Power Punch Bone Rush, single-handedly because Power Punch is a knock-up. Bone Rush will reset Power Punch. If you're level 13, then afterwards you can take Bone Rush again to do a third Power Punch in one combo. There's a little bit of gap between the first Bone Rush and the second Power Punch, and enemies could get out of it that way. And a smart enemy will get away from your Bone Rush, that way you can't teleport to it and get another reset. But it is a lot of single target CC to consider. Likewise, Extreme Speed Close Combat, getting that 15% attack buff at level 11 makes Close Combat hit even harder on its own. And Extreme Speed's also just good for bees and stuff. But those are two builds which I do see play, but I mostly see Power Punch, Close Combat, Extreme Speed, Bone Rush. Now Extreme Speed, everyone knows Extreme Speed at this point. I don't really have to talk about it much. What's important to note, though, is that the attack that it spins afterwards can critically hit. There's a build I specifically go that's Extreme Speed, Bone Rush, where I really use this critically hit function. Combined with the fact that his basic attack auto-boosted can actually crit as well, and he gets up to 20% base at level 9, he can actually crit really hard, and people don't really consider that. It technically is RNG to go off that route, but it's pretty consistent in my play, and it can usually get you kills that people just won't be expecting before they panic ult. Bone Rush, of course. Before it gets level 13, you could throw it at an enemy and reset their extreme speed timer. Has pretty good scaling as well. Based on the distance to the enemy, it hits 4 to 7 times. 7 times if they're right next to you. Taking the Bone Rush at level 13 will reset extreme speed or power punch. So you can do, at level 13, 2 extreme speeds, Bone Rush, take the Bone Rush, 2 more extreme speeds, or you can do Power Punch, Bone Rush, Power Punch, take the Bone Rush again, Power Punch. There's a lot of play that revolves around Bone Rush, but close combat slow smoke is nothing to scoff at, and it can really force people to pop a lot of things when they're in that situation where they're getting hit by the close combat. Especially when a Lucario goes attack weight, which is pretty much all the time. But we'll get there. His ult is very important to note. The damage is absolutely ridiculous, though it's not exactly hard to dodge. It can get up to about 700% attack, plus 840 if they're right next to you. And if the aura sphere is traveling at max speed at super far distances, it will only hit 1 time. So if you're trying to snipe Zapdos, it's going to be very hard if you're quite far away. Basically max distance. When hitting an enemy, after using your ult, if you are extreme speed, it'll reset their extreme speeds. So that's very important to use in a situation where it basically gives you another Bone Rush, but it's not as easy to hit. Or where Power Punch increases the damage by 20%, so you can get an even bigger chunk on somebody fully charged. Very important. There used to be some bugs with Lucario. There used to be so many bugs. He's been bug fixed so many times, but yet he still pretty much up there in the tier list. I don't necessarily think that this might be ordered, but he's always been S tier, and he's always been in the 1-1-3 meta in the Western and in the Eastern, the score meta. He's also played there. Lucario is great, and he's can go against anything right now in his current form as of March 2022. Now I'm going to be talking about the item sets that I think work best with them, tech options, things that might be good with buffs later in the future for specific reasons, also his battle items, and then the matchup chart. So we're going to start with punch and combat, since I think that's the most common set right now in the current meta. Attack weight is pretty much universally undisputed as broken on him because of how much weight he has to move around. It's not exactly hard to stack attack weight. It used to be a lot stronger with attack weight score shield because scoring used to restore like 20% of your health. They brought it down to, was it 5 to 10%? But it's still very good, and you can get a lot of free scores off with score shield. So it's usually the set as attack weight score shield, then it's a flex item, maybe a focus muscle band. But there's a lot of options with it. I always consider Razor and Scope as options because they can be there and getting more crits on like Power Punch, doing the knock up, so you get your first hit and then you get the knock up hit because it's 2 hits and your boosted auto, and they can both have a chance to crit. And it's a lot of damage that people don't consider. Because you're boosting your crit damage by another 12%, so it's 212% instead of just a flat 200%. 2 chances, plus 6% more chance to crit. Mathematically, it's kind of there, and you're doing a lot of boosted autos a game. But, of course, if you don't like the RNG, you can go with Razor Claw, where after abilities, you'll just straight up do more damage. It helps his early game. It has great use with extreme speed, and it's also great with punch close combat. Razor Claw is just a great item overall. It also gives a slow, which makes your team able to follow up better with you. There's so many uses for Razor Claw. Tech items, Buddy Barrier. It is used, and I've seen it be play based on the team comp. If you're trying to really protect a squishy, maybe like eventually we see Decidueye, giving Decidueye more shields just to let him go more rampant, won't be a bad thing. Weakness policy. I've seen people starting to pick this item up over time. It does have some pretty good scaling with Lucario because of how high his attack scaling is. But we'll have to see maybe if it gets buffed in the future. But right now it's at least able to see play in like these items down here. Muscle Band if you want to be better at taking objectives, more so than you already are, and you want to help your team chip down more tanky mons. Muscle Band is good. Muscle Band will always be good. It's great early game too to help him with that. Good with buffs. Ao's Cookie could potentially be really good with some buffs in the future because of how fast he can stack. He can basically double his, or get a bunch more HP early. It's up to 1200 more HP right now. If it's buffed by maybe another 100, so it gets up to almost 2k more health, I could see Ao's Cookie potentially seeing some real play. It was seeing some play in the eastern part of the world with score comp. I did see some Cookie play there on niche situations on certain mons, but as it is right now, it's probably not more beneficial than just having a Razor Claw. Assault Vest could be very good at some point down the road eventually with buffs. If it gets a bigger shield, maybe the internal cooldown is lessened. It's like 8 seconds out of combat. Too long. You're always farming. You're always doing something. So that needs to be lessened. And your lane that you're going against is usually another Lucario. Maybe Lucario Eldegoss with EXP share to get Lucario to 5. But it's not really worth enough running again over any other item. Energy Amp. In this build, I don't think you can use Energy Amp as well as you can in the other one. But I'll get there. Energy Amp, it's not as bad as people think. It gives quite a big damage boost, especially on Lucario's ult where it's so much damage. This is a tier for maybe in a different meta. Floatstone, if it gets enough buffs, it might be good, but I don't think it's in the good with buffs tier. It has a lot of base attack you get, and it can help you for rotating, But again, you're probably going to be rotating while close combating the core fish just to, keep up your farm. So it's kind of hard to see play. But maybe in some kind of jungle Lucario evade meta with X speed, it might be good. And the Yucky tier, I don't have to talk about. You're just not using it on him. Next build will be Rush slash Bone. Again, attack weight, focus band, two items that are always good. Muscle's better on this build because the attack extreme speed spin after extreme speeding actually counts as an auto attack. So Muscle Band, Razor Claw will actually give a proc on those. And that means Scope Lens also has another chance to get another big hit. So it's kind of really good, and it's something to consider. Especially if you want to play an offensive Lucario where you're kind of diving the backline immediately. If you're against certain comps that you know you're going to go against, they can shut you down, then you wouldn't go Scope Lens. But honestly, since Scope Lens is so strong on its own with Lucario's 20% crit, brings up to 26%, boosted auto, gives 2 hit chances to proc it. Extreme speed, you can extreme speed so many times in a row in lots of situations, so you have a large chance to proc it. It gives him a pretty damn big damage boost. And it's not uncommon to hit a crit with him. So I definitely recommend giving it a shot. But I'd probably see attack weight, score shield, muscle, or focus in this build. Now the tech options here, I'm actually considering Energy Amp as a tech option if you're an actual cracked player. Because you can ult and go crazy with extreme speed and really chunk people. My personal build, and I don't want anyone to copy this, is double crit and attack weight. That's how I play him. Kind of like a assassin in a way. And it's really fun. But it's definitely not as strong, at least competitively against real teams, than the usual attack weight, score shield, muscle band, focus band, sometimes razor claw. There's so many different ways to play Lucario, so you never really know what he's going to be running. Buddy barrier again, if you're trying to give someone a shield. And weakness policy is seeing play in certain situations. I don't really have to talk about the other tiers because I've already talked about them enough. If they get buffs, they can be good. Now, in terms of battle items, Slow Smoke is usually the most one I see, even on Extreme Speed Close Combat, Extreme Speed Bone Rush. I mostly see Lucarios with Slow Smoke. You have so much mobility to go in there and hit a really juicy Slow Smoke on like 3 to 4 people in team fights. It can really disrupt people. And the attack speed debuff is like 10% or something, but it kind of comes out to a weird way with the scaling, how the game rounds attack speed, so it's definitely worth noting though. Sometimes the attack speed debuff actually doesn't do anything, but people are testing it right now, so the information isn't quite out yet. Full heal, if you're gonna go against like a Wigglytuff Pikachu who can like stun lock you for a long time, Snorlax pushing you. There's a lot of comps that full heals. I used to run full heal, and I can see people running full heal as the safe option. But with how strong Slow Smoke is, it is kind of a toss up between these two, honestly. X speed, in case you want to counter Slow Smoke. But I think Lucario has enough mobility to merit it, though X speed is just a great choice because you can also get away from things that you otherwise couldn't, and it can help you get to an objective if you want to pop it in that way and use it. And you can also use it to walk in the enemy flex zone, which you can use with extreme speed Bone Rush to really cause havoc, kind of like a Greedent. But other than that, it's good, but I don't think it can quite beat Slow Smoke or Full Heal. Eject button kind of still has its value of teleporting over walls really far distances. If you use it against a wall, you can go up to 2 times the eject button distance, based on how like the game forces you out of walls. But compared to Slow Smoke again, doesn't really see play. X speed is what I personally use. X attack is what I personally use because of how it got buffed with the attack speed increaser, and also gives an even bigger chunk of 20% attack. He scales so well with attack. When you combine that with some other scaling, like extreme speeds, 15% more damage after e-speeding. You can get some pretty nutty crits. Good options, but maybe in some world, maybe like a fluffy tail floatstone invade. Potion technically is a good item, but compared to the other items, it just can't really be good. And Goal Getter, it's great, but I don't think Lucario even needs Goal Getter to get a lot of the goals that he does. He kind of really wants Slow Smoke to disrupt teams. Now, the part that I always love talking about is the matchup chart. Now, there's a new tier in this one, the Technicality tier, which I'm going to talk about first. Technically, these two characters break some rules in the game. But his tier list is kind of centered on like 1v1s to a degree. Like you're going to duel someone. It's just telling you what to look out for on the character. Like, oh, I'm going to talk about every single character and what they have against you and what you have against them. But these two break that a little bit because Hoopa's ult pulls everybody to you, so it kind of just invalidates any kind of 1v1 you might have. And Greedent, he will just run away and farm. It's kind of too hard to catch him. Whether he's Covert Belch, Stuffed Cheeks, Bullet Seed, you're not really going to catch him. Even some of the characters meant to kill him have trouble killing him. Like I've seen Absol, people say Absol is a Greedent counter, but a lot of the time he can just get away for free. Now we're going to start at the very bottom here. They're not exactly ordered in any meaningful way. It's just to order them by tier so I could talk about them. Characters that you beat in a 1v1, Snorlax, Cramorant, Gardevoir, Lolan, Eldegoss, Blissey. Some of them can be more annoying than others, but overall, they're not really going to be killing you in a serious way. It's hard for Gardevoir to really hit any combos. Alolan combos are easier to hit, but you do so much raw damage and they have no dashes that they're gonna get hit by everything. Gardevoir's gonna get hit by everything you do, and they have to work hard to hit what they need to hit. So overall, most of the time, you're just gonna straight up kill them in a 1v1. Cramorant, no mobility unless he goes Air Slash, but I don't really see that. So they go like Surf Hurricane most of the time. No mobility. CC isn't long enough. If they use ult, you can close combat the ult and like basically invalidate their ult because you do way more damage than they do. At least in a burst. You know, consistent damage, Cramorant ult is really good, but for burst, you can burst him before he kills you. Eldegoss is annoying because they can usually kind of get away to some degree, but you do beat them in an actual static environment. Blissey doesn't really have anything. At least the Eldegoss can like fight a little bit and does some pretty good damage that people don't consider, but Blissey just won't have anything and will just get beat down. Now the +2 tier, they can beat you, but they're probably not going to beat you. It's more of an annoyance tier. Kind of similar to like Eldegoss where they can run away. You have characters like Crustle that you can't really catch, but with Score Shield Crustles, where they want to just score all game and score comp, you want to go close combat because you just break through their Score Shield immediately. You know, it's very hard for a Score Shielder or like the score comp to 5-man ult on you while you're in the home goal after Zapdos because they want to score their 500 points and you have close combat in your team and they'll shred through even massive shields combined with your team, of course. Now, Slowbro doesn't do anything against you. He can tank a lot, but doesn't have any real mobility to really get away from you, and you could just kind of combo him to death. Mr. Mike, I love Mr. Mike. I've seen some Mr. Mikes beat Lucario's top lane, but you have to be a really cracked out Mr. Mike, have some okay help from your jungler, and kind of go against a mediocre Lucario. If the Lucario is anywhere equal in skill, theoretically, or above in skill, Mr. Mike's probably going to lose the lane, and he'll get some farm, but he's going to be quite behind in the retrospect. Crustle, again, most of them go Score Shield. Not really going to be an issue with close combat. If you see a Crustle go close combat, they're probably going to try and stunk on the other side of the map where the team fight is going on. Lucario usually is on the other side of the map as well, just absorbing farm, so he's gonna have trouble getting scores off. Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff's thing is very annoying. Wigglytuff, you can't really extreme speed Wigglytuff when she has passive because you'll actually lose the extreme speed. So it's really important to note to not initiate on Wiggly, at least with extreme speed. You can auto once and then start doing your combo. But if you start out extreme speeding on Wiggly, you're gonna lose that fight probably and you're gonna have to retreat. She does pretty good damage too, all things considered, for what she is as a supporter. Apparently, this website lists her as a defender, though. It's quite interesting. Yeah, she's kind of both. Trevenant, he's got nothing. He's got a lot of sustain. You have a lot of burst. Burst usually beats sustain, though he does have enough raw HP to usually live a combo. So it might get a little awkward, but he's not really going to be any threat to you in terms of damage. You also get some good lifesteal, so he's kind of just like something to heal off of. Mamo has a lot of CC. I'll give him that. And he's actually got pretty, a little bit above average damage for a defender compared to, like, again, Trevenant. Slowbro does do good damage, but Mamo does even higher damage in terms of his abilities. But his ult's so bad that he kind of brings it down a lot, and he can't really ult anything that you do. He'll get the Buddy Barrier shield, because most of them go Buddy Barrier, but you're going to be winning the fights. Dragonair. Dragonairs go Hyper Beam. You're going to be able to beat them. You can catch them pretty easily. Their auto range got nerfed a bit. It's basically the same range as your Power Punch. So by the time they're autoing you, you can Power Punch or Extreme Speed, and it's not even an issue. Then you're winning the fight. The only thing that Dragonite can do is they can win if they go Outrage, but then they lost the game if they go Outrage, most likely. It's great, but you get kited too hard. Dragonite can also ult your ult, so if you pop ult first, Dragonite can ult right away if it reacts fast enough. Dodge Lucario's ult, then land on Lucario and knock him up. That's probably the only thing Dragonite has going on him, though, apart from the Outrage shenanigans, which he can win if he goes Outrage. Gengar, really, really high burst. Most of them go to sleep build, but if they miss anything, they're dead. Kind of like Gardevoir, but Gengar has a little bit more range, I feel like, in terms of his abilities. And his ult also can be really annoying because you can't see him doing it. So you have to either predict it and dodge it, or just not get hit. He could 100 to 0 you, but Gengar could 100 to 0 anybody, so that's not really a topic for discussion. But you can also burst him if he misses anything, or if you get a really good timed close combat or power punch, you can unstoppable his sleep, and that kind of invalidates him. Blastoise is annoying. Lots of CC and Surf. He can just get away usually for free. But if you can catch him, you can unstoppable his ult and do a bunch of damage to him with close combat. That's probably what a lot of these are going to look like. Close combat can just unstoppable through a lot of what they want to do to you in terms of CC. It's really important to time your close combat to win a lot of fights. Talonflame. Talonflame can kill you, but if they go like Fly and you do the combo, it's hard to hit them with close combat, but if you do, they're dead. 100%. And their full combo doesn't even 100 to 0 you either. But you can 100 to 0 them. So it's kind of up to the Talon to outplay you. But if you play kind of passive, it's hard for the Talon to really do anything. But with how hard it is to kill Talon, with how mobile he is and elusive he can be with his mix-ups, I will get him at a +1. Absol. Absol is just really good. In the early game, he's not really as scary as people say, as what I always think. But he can always crit you down, and he can dodge your close combat with his ult. And that can put you in a bad situation, because then Lucario loses a lot of his damage. He loses his reset with Power Punch, and then Absol's damage with his ult is really good. But apart from that, he's not really got as much, and Lucario just has way more over him in the grand scheme of things. Decidueye. Lucarios love Decidueye because they consider them free XP, though that's if they go Spirit Shackle. Decidueye should be going Razor Leaf. For the most part, maybe in the future, if Spirit Shellco gets like a cooldown buff by like half again, half cooldown, I could maybe see Spirit Shackle becoming at least a niche thing with Solar Beam Venu as a partner on a team somewhere for like a range damage poke comp, but for the most part, he's free XP. I have to be honest. I consider it, in my humble opinion, completely even with my skill level against Lucario's in the static environment of a 1v1, but for the most part, what I've seen, you you're just gonna be free XP to them for most Decidueye players I see on teams. Serena, you beat Serena, but it's like an anime battle. You're both going back and forth repeatedly. It's honestly pretty fun to fight Serena. She's a lot of fun. I hate fighting the mirror match because that's all you do, and you get sick of it after the 500s game. But Serena can be really fun because she can go a bunch of different routes, and it can let you. You gotta like play around what she does. She can win, but if you like immunity her ult with Power Punch or Close Combat, she loses a lot of what she can do to you. Charizard in a similar boat. It's pretty fun to fight him because you kind of beat on him until he ults and then he's the demon of the game. But if he doesn't have ult somehow, you'll just win. He doesn't have any actual mobility, so you kind of just beat him down. Machamp. Machamp has a lot of burst as well, along with you, and Machamp's burst is a little easier to hit, in my opinion, than Lucario's, because Lucario's you can walk out of. Machamp's is quicker, and close combat you can move, but it doesn't do as much as Lucario, but it's still a lot of damage. Machamp ult is also very scary. He can ult and then do his combos, and it does a lot more damage, and it's harder to hit him. And he does way more attack, and then he can ult at any time, so it's kind of hard to react to that with one of your abilities that give you unstoppable. But I think overall Lucario beats him. Garchomp, you beat him, but if you get caught out in a bad situation, like if your abilities are down for any reason, and he can get on top of you, he can probably just beat you down with his autos and how he scales. So you gotta watch out from Garchomp, because the Garchomp on the enemy team, as a melee character, you have to be aware that he will kill you very quickly. And if he has ult, they'll usually ult you for no reason in particular. So just be aware of that when fighting Garchomp. Aegislash, he's kind of dropped off a bit, but I see people play him every little bit, every once in a while. He has great dueling potential against Lucario with his shield stance switching when Lucario has abilities and going to sword stance when he doesn't. So you can outplay Lucario, but Lucario can also just outplay that situation and just keep autoing in an auto fight, holding abilities until one eventually gives in. So I think he can beat Lucario, but it's not quite even. It's pretty close though. Aegislash is a really good dueler on paper, and in game he's also a great dueler. I've seen people play him really well. To even tier, both of you can kill each other, in my humble opinion. Pikachu has some of the most crazy damage output in the game with his ult, with energy amp that they run. Like, if they go ball build, if they go thunder, vault, doesn't matter what they go. They're going to do so much damage to you in their combo, and their cooldowns are so low that they'll probably get 2 to 3 rotations off. It sucks to go against Pikachu because if you ult their ult and try and go for an ult trade and get away, their ult charges way quicker than yours. So it feels bad to go against Pikachu in that regard. So you usually kind of lose a bit, but I think it's perfectly even. You can kill Pikachu in 100 to 0. He can 100 to 0 you. It goes either way. Greninja, really mobile, can definitely outplay anybody in the game with enough skill, with enough map awareness and stuff like that. Whether he goes Water Shuriken, hits all the Shurikens on you, which will be very hard because you're pretty mobile, or Surf to give you a quick death. Either way, Greninja is pretty scary with how much damage his crits can do, especially after ulting too with the Unite buff. Aurora is probably the best static dueler in the game for what he can do, dodging abilities with wild charge damage. doing massive chunks of damage. And his ult is also pretty good. It doesn't do much damage on its own, but it gives him the buff ult, which is insane. But I think Lucario can usually, even now it's like a 5.5 to a 4.5. But Sorora, if they're like, if he's like one level ahead, he'll just outstat you like a stat stick. Sylveon, I think Sylveon is crazy, amazing when played properly in the situation that I play her in. And I've beaten a lot of Lucarios in 1v1, even competitive Lucarios that I've seen in some tournaments that I'm not going to name for specific reasons. Sylveon is really good, but it takes a certain kind of playstyle to play her to her extreme with Mystical Fire. And I think they can go either way. Whoever gets the lead is going to snowball unless the jungler comes and helps. So Sylveon can really put a dent in Lucario for how mobile she can be, and how much lifesteal she spell vamp that she can get. Not to mention her ult also dodges a lot of what Lucario can do, so holding ult until that time is important. Cinderace, broken character along with Lucario. Insane damage, insane ability, Blaze Kick, Flame Charge is a set we see playing. You can die before you kill her. You can kill her before she kills you, based on how the matchup goes. I think it's a little favored in Cinderace because you can outplay with your abilities and Blaze Kick, CC stun. And the ult, it's good execute damage, but Lucario can dodge the ult too if he has abilities up. So it can go either way, but I think it's slightly Cinderace favored. Greedent, Koopa, talked about those two. The only losing matchup I think in this game is Venusaur because of how strong he is with how he's played. Giga Drain, Petal Dance, kinda good against you. Not gonna lie, it has a lot to offer. It's got that damage resist after he Giga Drains. He gets resets. But he's just got a lot of HP. He's got decent bulk, which gets enhanced by the Giga Drain effect of 30% damage resist. And he's got crazy lifesteal. His ult is insane damage too, better than your ult. So I think in an environment where you're just fighting mono-e-mono, he does win a little bit. Now the matchup I wanted to talk about is Clefable. Broken character, not talked about because you have to input the Konami code on the title screen. But if you know about that, this character's broken. You can't do anything about it. I should have made a tier for Clefable because goddamn, this character is obnoxious. I've always forfeited when I see that character. So the important thing to take home from this is Lucario's got really good crit, good lifesteal, lots of outplay potential. He's got 4 sets to run, which I've seen people play competitively on all 4 sets. He can go with any abilities, any held items that aren't special attack related, and you'll probably carry the team in some regard. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you all learned something from this video. Bye bye.